In The Master, a veteran arrives home from war unsettled and uncertain of his future until he is tantalized by the Cause and its charismatic leader.
How'd I get down here?
You're acting aggressive because you drank too much alcohol.
What do you do?
I am a writer, a doctor, a nuclear physicist, a theoretical philosopher. But above all, I am a man, just like you.
I don't know about you, but I was really looking forward to seeing The Master after seeing the very first little trailer clip.
I would consider myself a huge Paul Thomas Anderson fan.
Okay, and on the flip side,
Never
not
seen
that I'm not a
it.
fan, I just have not seen all of his movies. So.
I haven't even seen all of his movies.
You've seen enough.
I've seen the big ones. They're actually some of my favorite movies.
Okay, so you were really excited then.
Yeah, I was really excited. I had a lot of expectations.
The reason I was excited is because of the cast more than anything, and because it seemed like they were going to just let actors act, which I'm a huge fan of. Just leave it uncut, let two great actors interact with each other, and that's it.
Which is what he usually does with his movies.
And he does that in this movie as well, in The Master. He lets them just kind of, do their thing, which I think is fantastic. Unfortunately, having seen The Master, I was a bit let down, but let down isn't the right thing to say.
It isn't. I wouldn't say I was let down.
Yeah, I guess that's not right. Yeah, it's hard to explain, though.
It's good to say this, though. It's like, I'm not let down. I'm not disappointed. I was just expecting something very different.
Right.
Very, very, very different.
And a bit shorter.
And, yeah, I would say, let's get this right off the bat.
Yeah.
Way too long.
It
was way too
That's
long.
the biggest flaw of the movie, is that it's way too long.
It's the biggest flaw, and I would say, like, keeps it from being, like, say, oh, that was a great movie.
Right. I can't imagine watching it again or telling someone to watch. I mean, I would say watch it for the performances, which were fantastic.
Yes, the performances were amazing.
But, I mean, after a while, it's like, okay, this is great, but...
it's like...
where are we going?
I was waiting for just something to happen.
Yes.
And it just... Nothing happened.
You know what? It was a lot of potential. It's like a lot of things started up and then kind of didn't go anywhere. So let's get a little more in-depth with it, starting off with the plot.
That's kind of it's a good way to explain it, is that a lot of things came up. Like, the plot started with him going into the Cause.
Yeah, the Cause.
The Cause. So he gets into the Cause, and nothing really progresses from there.
It kind of just stays on that level throughout.
Yeah, it stays on the level, and, like, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's just very
monotone? Not monotone. No, that's not right either. What are we? It's so hard to explain.
Yeah, this movie's very hard to kind of break down. It was just nothing escalated.
Yeah, nothing escalated. It stayed on that level, which is so. What we're saying is not a bad level to be at.
Yeah,
it's just. Give us more levels.
Even when he does flip out and beat somebody up, there's no repercussions.
Exactly. That is the main problem, and that's why that's exactly what we've been saying. Things happen, but then don't go anywhere. And another example that I loved and didn't really go anywhere was when somebody questioned Philip Seymour Hoffman's character's whole idea.
That was a good scene.
And it was a great scene, but then it's like... I don't know, it didn't really affect anybody as much as it should have, and it didn't really go anywhere. Now, another main thing about this movie is that it's supposed to be about Scientology, quote-unquote.
Yeah, it's Scientology, not Scientology. It's very obviously a Scientology allegory.
I think they can skate by and not have too many problems in that department, but I would say it was very clearly... Especially when they started talking about vessels and stuff like that. It just sounded exactly like Scientology.
I think there was actually a couple of... I've read this somewhere that Philip Seymour Hoffman actually says direct L. Ron Hubbard quotes.
Interesting. But I think that it's vague enough. As far as the directing goes, I thought that it was directed well in some cases, but then overall, because it just kind of started to drag after a while and it was way too long,
that's its main problem.
That's obviously to do with the directing. So, I mean, I thought that some scenes were fantastic, and that's to do with the directing and the acting. Once again, not doing anything, it can be better directing than doing something, like just letting your actors act if they're good enough, and he does that, which is fantastic.
A staple of Paul Thomas Anderson movies is that whenever there's like a confrontation, like a fight, it's really visceral, and like you really feel like, oh god, there's a fight going on.
And that happened in this.
Yeah, it happens a lot, and like it's just really impactful, like the fight scenes, but like then again, the fight scenes, they didn't go anywhere.
Right. So you've got some great scenes, but they don't all really kind of tie together 100%. Now, another great thing is the cinematography. Some amazing shots.
Amazing.
I mean, that's definitely not an issue. There are plenty of parts of this movie that are not an issue at all. It's really the length and the story kind of just being bland, I guess. I don't know. You know, we can't find the right
It's
word,
not-
but hopefully you
yeah.
understand. Yeah, bland isn't the right word either. I don't think there is a word. At this point, I don't think there is a word. But the best part about the movie, clearly, is the acting. I think that's probably the best part of the movie. Everybody is brilliant. I mean, Philip Seymour Hoffman and Joaquin Phoenix together are brilliant. Them on their own are just great. Joaquin Phoenix, I think, is the shiner here.
With actors like this, like usually when I go see a movie, I'm like, those are actors.
Yeah.
They're when the scene ends, they walk out of the set and they get their
a coffee
and
oh.
yeah. But like with this, it's like just like, they feel like they're real people. Like there's actual things going on in their head. Like when you just look at Joaquin Phoenix's face. He doesn't have to say anything. Just his face. You're like,
oh, his eyes. He doesn't have to move. His eyes say it all. My favorite little bit, I think I told you, I think my favorite look, or, you know, my favorite acting from him in the movie is the part, and you see it in the trailer, so no spoilers or anything, when the girl touches his leg and then not his leg, a little further up his leg, and he kind of just looks like, you know, I can't. I'm not Joaquin Phoenix. I obviously wasn't cast for the movie, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it says so much with nothing.
Now, but what's interesting, though, is he's very, like breathing and, like, you know, veins pulsing out of his face. Philip Seymour Hoffman, on the opposite end, is very subdued, which is just as powerful, but in a totally different way. And both of them together were fantastic. Also, Amy Adams, I thought, was very good. I thought everybody in the cast was very good, but they obviously are the standouts, and they did a great job. I also have to say the music was really good.
Yeah, very unique.
Very interesting.
And, like, it was always, like you were saying, it's offbeat, so it's like, it's never, like, the same kind of...
You can never really nod your head to it. It's not something that you can kind of, like, get into the rhythm of, which kind of keeps... I feel like that, like, subliminally keeps you on your toes, because it's like you don't get used to it. So I just thought it was really interesting.
It kind of, like, made everything feel a little, like, frustrating in a way, because like it kind of makes you feel Joaquin Phoenix's character a little bit more, which is really good for a movie to do.
Right. So once again, lots of really great things about this movie.
Oh, there's so many good things in this movie, but it's just...
But unfortunately, one of the most important parts is the story or the writing, the plot, you know, whatever you want to say is the issue here. I just thought that the story was lacking. The writing was lacking. I don't know what exactly, but something was lacking.
I said it before. You would be so lucky just to have a movie with great acting and great cinematography and great music. Sometimes you don't get everything, which in this movie's case was it didn't have a great story, but everything else was fantastic.
You can't always get what you want.
You just can't always win the race.
You want to sing the song? You can't always get what you want?
No, I don't want to. No.
Okay. And now we're going to talk about some spoilers about The Master, because we want to talk about stuff we think was a little unnecessary, and it's going into spoiler territory, so we just want to play it safe here. Please stop watching this video if you have not seen The Master. After you see it, you can come back and see what we had to say. But let's get into some spoiler territory. The main thing we want to talk about is the last 20 to 30 minutes of the movie.
I would say the 30 to 35 minutes.
I'd have to watch it again to know for sure. I couldn't tell you, but, you know.
I would say 30 minutes. Didn't need it at all. There was a point in the movie where it should have stopped, but it just kept going, and it was just, there was nothing, because like nothing really happened in the movie, but in this last 30 minutes, nothing happened.
I would say the only scene that was necessary was when he goes back to the girl's house.
Yes,
that was good. But other than that, it was a lot of just kind of like. You know what the problem was? I thought it was going to end 5 times. Like the shot looked like it was going to be the last shot, and then the credits were going to roll, and I was like, okay. This is a good shot, good way to end it. And then it would pick up like someone driving into the parking lot. And it's like, oh, this starts another scene.
But another thing is like another I thought pretty useless scene was the motorcycle scene. But like the cinematography in that scene is so good. Like just showing them on a motorcycle. That was just fun.
Kind of reminded me of Star Wars.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, which is irrelevant, but just something I'm just saying.
But like just as a great aspect of filmmaking, that was great filmmaking. That scene, but like plot wise. Worthless.
And plus, by then, you're so far into the movie that you're just kind of like...
why? What are they doing?
You're getting drained, you know? Yeah. It's a long time to sit, especially when it's frustratingly bare.
When we're at the end of the movie, I really don't know what the message is. Like, what was he doing? Like, why was he the way he is? I mean, I get that he had PTSD.
Right, yeah.
But other than that, it was just like, I don't really...
that's what I'm saying. That's what it is about the story. It just kind of feels like...
It was bare. It was
you were just
bare.
watching things happen, but I feel like I didn't really get anything to think out of it.
Joaquin Phoenix's character was such a well-developed character, and it would have been so much better if I could, like, connect a little bit more,
Yeah.
just to like kind of know where
he's at.
He's at, but like I don't.
It's hard to explain. In case you can't tell, we're having a tough time with this, and I think that's telling because the movie feels like we're having a rough time explaining it, but the movie I think had a rough time kind of explaining things. So overall, I loved some aspects of The Master. I truly loved plenty of aspects. The cinematography, the acting,
filmmaking side of it, blows it out of the water.
Right, but as a viewer. And just watching a movie, wanting to get a story, wanting to see things happen, it definitely felt lacking. Also, way too long. Way too long. So, unfortunately, those things cancel out the good things and make it definitely kind of an in-between movie. I'd say better than in-between, just because the acting and the cinematography was so great, but it definitely could have been much better, I think.
I would say this is, out of all the Paul Thomas Anderson movies I've seen, I would say this is probably the weakest one.
Really? Okay.
But that's not a bad thing. Because,
right, it's good that your weakest movie still has such incredible things to it, so, take that for what it's worth. But let us know in the comments what you thought of The Master. Let us know what you thought of, first of all, the acting and the cinematography, and then let us know what you thought of the story. Do you agree or disagree with us? Are you going to tell us, you guys totally missed it? You totally missed the point.
You guys missed the point.
I'm wearing a V-neck, guys.
Went over your head.
If there was a point that I could have missed, I would have gotten it. Look at me. Are you kidding? But let us know anything that you want about The Master, and that's pretty much it.
If we are not helping him, then it is we who have failed him.
Perhaps he's past help. Or insane.